Welcome back to this short series called The West Wing in the Bible. I'm Batstone, that's Blackham. We like The West Wing. I really like The West Wing. I don't think there's anything better, ever, in TV. Can you think of one? Can you think of one thing that's better than seasons 1 to 3 of The West Wing?
Some of the episodes of Frasier are pretty good.
And we like the Bible. Can you think of a book that's better than the Bible?
No, even that, yeah. No, you got me there.
And we're just working through how the West Wing often talks about the Bible, sometimes quite well, but sometimes not quite well.
Yeah.
And we've made it to season 1, episode 14, Take This Sabbath Day. This is part 2. This is Toby talking to his rabbi. But the funny thing is, at the same time as the West Wing, competing for which series was the best and winning different awards, like alternating who wins best, was The Sopranos. And this rabbi was Richie Aprile, a gangster in The Sopranos, and the most ruthless of all the gangsters. But here he's a rabbi. So, here we go.
The Torah doesn't prohibit capital punishment.
No.
It says an eye for an eye.
You know what it also says? It says a rebellious child can be brought to the city gates and stoned to death. It says homosexuality is an abomination and punishable by death. It says men can be polygamous and slavery is acceptable. For all I know, that thinking reflected the best wisdom of its time. But it's just plain wrong by any modern standard. Society has a right to protect itself, but it doesn't have a right to be vengeful. It has a right to punish, but it doesn't have a right to kill.
Jewish law doesn't.
So we'll stop that bit there before he talks to Bartlett. This is, Sorkin's sort of way of saying that the Bible hasn't got a place anymore, really. He's doing it again, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's coming through in the rabbis. So the main talking points here, some are going to overlap with an episode in season 2 called The Midterms, where we might get into some of these topics more. But he essentially says the Bible's wrong because, or no place today because, it says homosexuality is punishable by death. Men can be polygamous, and slavery is acceptable. That's 3 whoppers. And it's going to spill into others, but that's generally...
And also that idea that disrespect to parents is punishable by death and things like that. So if you on the one hand, there's this idea that there are things like, break the Sabbath, disrespect to parents, those are punishable by death in the Bible. How ridiculous is the implication? But if we just think about that for a moment, it's that idea that it's not just those 2 things. There's actually loads and loads of things that are punishable by death in the Bible. In fact, right at the beginning, you've hardly read a single page of the Bible before the Lord says, I'll tell you, if you eat that bit of fruit, you're going to die. So it's just for eating a bit of fruit? That's ridiculous, man. But the point is, the Lord says, it says in Ezekiel, the soul that sins will die. And the point is, all of it is punishable by death. And that in one sense, as soon as we do anything wrong, death, that would be totally reasonable. And the reason why the Lord does that, even though very, very few people in the Bible ever do get killed for doing sins. There's just a handful, a couple in the Old Testament, and then that Ananias and Sapphira in the New Testament. It's so small number. It's as if the Lord's like, I don't want to actually kill you for doing these things, not right away like that. What I'd much prefer to do is I'll die for you, but I want you to know that is how serious evil is. And even things that you think are nothing, like, disrespect parents, what's that? Well, in Western culture, that means nothing. in lots of cultures in the world, that is considered to be ridiculously serious. But the Lord's like saying it actually is ridiculously serious, and I'm just letting you know it's worthy of death. And it's like, I use the analogy of like Ebola or something. We'll go, oh, like Ebola, is it okay just to have a little bit of Ebola? No! We will go to ridiculous lengths to get rid of every last bit of Ebola because it is so dangerous, so corrupting. It can destroy like everything if you allow it. And the Lord's saying, yeah, it's like that with evil. And things that you think don't matter, they do matter. And all of it must be killed off. But I don't actually want you to die. I've found a way that I'll take the death bit and you can live.
And that's the issue, therefore, is because there are some sins punishable by death in the Bible that modern society will go, yes, we agree with that one.
Yeah.
And we should kill those, whatever, ... for doing that. So then it's like, so what moral framework do people operate from?
That's why I think the example of, like, say, parents or family shame issues, it's very strange culturally where people who have different frameworks and like, I don't see what's wrong with that, and then I think that's outrageous and all that sort of thing. It's like lots of the people we've dealt with over the past, say, 30 years, well, Liz and I, come from backgrounds in which if you bring shame on your family, that is totally worthy of death. And everyone in the community agrees that is worthy of death. Whereas to a modern progressive Western, no, it doesn't matter. I'm not ashamed of anything. I have no shame, kind of thing. Shame is like a psychological problem that you can get rid of with therapy. And it's such massively different things. And the Bible comes into that and says, with a kind of different perspective entirely. And when we bump up against the Bible's perspective, that does take shame seriously, but tells us how to deal with it and how to think about it and all that. It is a shock to like all our cultures in a way, and I think that comes in this quite often in these episodes where the Bible does represent an entirely different worldview and a way of understanding ourselves and how we work, and they kind of just don't get that.
Yeah, and so there's quite a bit of picking and choosing.
Yeah,
and it's interesting in Western society what they pick and choose as things worthy of shame or not.
Yeah.
And some people have done away with shame completely.
Yeah.
But some still think there should be shame over something. So it's always interesting asking, like, why? And we'll get into this in other episodes, but a big one will be his thing about homosexuality being punished by death. Like, there's a why sin's a sin in the Bible. Christians haven't always been good at listing why God says certain things are sin. And we need to be better at doing that. So we'll get into the why God has these laws. And there's this wonderful picture of Jesus at the heart of these laws that we've often not been very good at explaining, have we?
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, say, a law where it's like, if people commit adultery, that's supposed to be punishable by death in the Bible. And people go, oh, why does that matter? Man, if you see the absolute heartbroken destruction it brings on people, their lives ruined, they're shattered as people, and you go, yeah, well, you know, what does it matter? People should be free to do whatever they want. Man, that is a hard-hearted person that says that. That is such a shallow understanding of the consequences of these selfish actions. Yeah. Whereas the Bible is just saying, nah, listen, you get carried away. You think, oh, no, it's different. This is magical. We're having this wonderful affair. And the Bible goes, nah, you're dirty and you're selfish and you need to stop because that is worthy of death. And it shocks us, but it tells us real truth.
Yeah, and it's worthy of death because there's something so much better that we could be having, which these laws are pointing us to. So there was a lot there, and that was just from Take This Sabbath Day, Part 2, Clip 1. So let's nip that there, and we'll come back, and we'll do Take This Sabbath Day. Basically, it's now Part 3, the second half of this clip that we're playing.